Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today we are going to be talking about why I think at least NASCAR is dying. Or maybe not was, but hey, this kind of ties into my video last week when I made it about the NASCAR playoffs. That will be like I'll touch on it a tiny bit, but not much because I already made a whole video on it. If you didn't see that video, make sure you go check it out. It's almost at 30 views as I'm recording this video. It's at like 27, so I'd like to get that to 30. But anyways, let's get on to the video. So I think the first main reason is it's I feel like a lot of it is change. Now, NASCAR has, for better or worse, made some changes. In some parts, they've over changed. In some parts, they haven't changed. The schedule, it took years. It took like a decade for them to change it around, and I think they changed it around mostly for the better. I like a lot of the additions that they've had and the stuff that they've tried. But then stuff I feel like they've changed a lot is the playoffs, the cars. Sometimes they don't really need to be. The rules, they changed that a lot, which for an older fan, kind of the older fans, it's a lot tougher to stay immersed in the sport. I talked to my grandpa like what around the 500 week last year. Well, technically this year, and like he just said, yeah, I stopped watching because like there's so much changes. There's like every week there's a new change, and I couldn't keep up. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like my grandpa he watched the first the first televised NASCAR race, first full televised NASCAR race, and he watched for like 2 or 3 decades, but and then just over the last couple of years they kind of stopped watching it. I mean, even I, in a couple of years, just kind of like stopped caring a lot. Like a lot through 2022, I just kind of stopped caring. Not really anything with like bad racing. I just didn't really care to watch it. This year, I felt very frustrated, but that's a lot of people. Um, like the playoffs, they've changed a lot, and I feel like it's just they've catered to a different. Yeah, they've catered to a different style of racing. They wanted wins to matter more. And they've done it. They just have done it in a way where they've led a lot of the fan base away and made a lot of people trying to get into the sport make it look as kind of like a gimmicky, like why should I watch this, and just tune immediately off. And it doesn't help when you're trying to get your sport to kind of grow again, knowing that it kind of like died for a bit. It doesn't help that you have a format that is universally not liked, and from outsiders looking in, it's a lot. It's very, how do I say this in a nice way? I guess gimmicky. Um, it just doesn't make sense for a lot of people. I already made a whole video on it, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but it makes it tough to come in as a fan, from an outsider to becoming a fan, because it's tough to understand, and then when you understand it, it doesn't make sense too much of what they haven't wanted to change it, which is kind of a thing NASCAR fans have been asking for change for the last half a decade at least. And a lot of times NASCAR's outright ignored it, or they've kind of came back in like weird responses that like haven't been uh how do I say this? Haven't been what you would want, I guess, which kind of sucks. I mean, a lot of the hardcore fans are the ones complaining, but they're also the ones that keep the sport alive. And in a time, only a couple years ago, when those hardcore fans were like most of what was left, it's really tough to look at a lot of the stuff and be like, well, look at a lot of stuff that they've done, and just kind of criticize a lot of the hardcore fans. It's tough. But yeah, I mean, that's a not the playoffs is a part of it. The colors again, they've changed it so much that it's a lot of times I feel like they haven't necessarily been needed to change. Like they made some changes to the COT colors, which I found perfectly fine. I know I wasn't really watching when I wasn't really watching NASCAR um when they made those changes. Just looking back on them, they make sense. They do make a lot of sense on why they did it. It's just like some of the other stuff. It's like we didn't have to make those changes, like lowering the horsepower. They did to cut costs, but in the end, a lot of uh guys that work on the cars and a couple drivers, mainly like Denny Hamlin, um, say like it doesn't cut costs at all. It doesn't really cut costs at all. So that kind of it sucks because a lot of the fans want to see 900 horsepower, like they did have in about a decade ago from now. And yeah, because a lot of this stuff now. Also, the colors are way too even. At a lot of tracks, short tracks, and road courses, they're pretty even, so it makes it tough. And some of the stuff that they've added to it have not done the they've they've made it closer, but they've made it tougher to pass. Also, now it's so it matters so much about getting your car to the ground, instead of it being like your back to the ground and not up. Because when it was up, you could actually get like up behind someone and get them arrow loose. Now you can't, so you just can't move them unless you hit them, and the cars kind of act like bricks. So if you hit them, they move like a quarter lane up and don't really do much. But yeah, it's kind of sad to see, I guess. But um, yeah, it's just like NASCAR has um done a lot of questionable stuff over the past couple of years, for better or worse, and sometimes for worse, at least most for worse, because with how it is now. It also doesn't help that the kind of marketing of it, I also said this in another video, the superstar problem. The marketing isn't really there, and NASCAR isn't really marketing their drivers like they should be marketed as the like superstars. So once you had guys like Johnson and Harvick and Earnhardt, um, and like those guys retire, it really is like okay. Like a lot of people just kind of left the sport because there was no really new superstars, because there was no one you could really connect with, because one, a lot of them are PR trained, so it's like that you don't actually know their personality. They just kind of like sit there and say what the higher ups want them to say and go away with it. And the marketing isn't there to like show, hey, these are superstars. So you kind of like just lose connection with a lot of the guys racing. Once you do that, you come from being like a hardcore fan to a casual, or you just leave the sport in general for other stuff that like, well, for other sports or just other stuff in general. Also, NASCAR is they haven't really catered to the young audience. I've always said this before, but a l- it, a lot of stuff that they've wanted to do to cater to the young audience has, I feel like, done the opposite. As I said with the playoffs, they want to cater to a more exciting style, where a lot of the other people that are looking into this one wanting to watch it are guys from the fans of IndyCar, F1, or other forms of motorsport. And they go in there, they look at kind of the stuff, and they're like, why is all this stuff here? This doesn't just seem right. And I know a lot of like I know like hockey and baseball and basketball and football all have playoffs, but there's a difference between those stick and ball sports and the motorsport racing. I don't think there's any other motorsport racing, at least I know of, that has a playoffs, which is it's kind of tough here. I know it makes NASCAR kind of stand out and be unique, but it also can make it. How do I say this? It can make it not. It can make it stand out in the wrong ways. But yeah, pretty much that's all I gotta say. We're starting to run out of time. I don't want this video to be like 18 minutes long, so we're already at 10 minutes now, almost 11. So I'm gonna cut it off here. But if you haven't, uh, make sure to like and subscribe. We are uh looking forward to December. That should be a good month. I'm gonna try to be more consistent and post more consistently throughout the weeks. Um, but uh, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. My if you guys are interested in more of my content, you guys can look at the stuff on your screen and click one of those videos and enjoy those. But for now, I'm out.